Hello and welcome to today's show. Thanks for joining me. Today's title is Davcat's curated Best of Twitter. And the first thing on the agenda for today is, let's have a look, Beto O'Rourke and his outburst, his response, his justifiably heated response to a supporter of Governor Abbott laughing as Beto O'Rourke described the Uvalde shooting and the element of it that an 18-year-old was able to legally purchase an AR-15 and what an AR-15 rifle is designed to do, that they were weapons introduced during the Vietnam War with the intention of firing bullets with a sufficient intensity to pierce an enemy soldier's helmet at a certain distance. The search didn't come up with anything. Beto. I also want to look at Beto O'Rourke's account because he's been posting video clips that I think are helpful. And I'm all about helping democracy succeed. The clips of people he's been posting are testimonies of people who were lifelong Republicans and what's happened to them to change their mind, the kind of epiphanies that they've experienced through engaging with or paying attention to Beto O'Rourke and what he says about the issues currently impacting the United States. All right. Oh, here we have one. So, a former Republican. Let's have a listen. Okay. So.
I used to be a Republican, but you've changed it, man.
I'm going to play that while I grab myself
following
some
him
headphones.
little by little on Twitter, listening to his messages and what he says, the policies he wants to change things. Honestly, it's just he changed me. It's all because of Beto. That's where it started. My mother-in-law and I actually have a sister-in-law. They're both teachers. They've been doing it for years. So just hearing what he wants to do and really get more in their pocket, especially what they put up with, they deal with nowadays, not knowing the safety of their own classroom. I mean, I used to be a Republican, but you've changed me, man. Just following him little by little on Twitter, listening to his messages and what he says, the policies he wants to change things. Honestly, it's just he changed me. It's all because of Beto. That's where it started. My mother-in-law and I actually have a sister-in-law. They're both teachers. They've been doing it for years. So just hearing what he wants to do and really get more in their pocket, especially what they put up with, they deal with nowadays, not knowing the safety of their own classroom. I mean, the fact that he wants to change all that to me speaks volumes. That's protecting my family. Our current governor, Greg Abbott, I feel like he's more about himself and what benefits him and his party versus Beto. I feel like he's more about Texas and the actual people of Texas, the middle class, the working people, and he's here to get more for us. He used to be a Republican, but he's the real deal right here. I'm a former Republican, but I will be voting for Beto all day long. I used to be a Republican, but...
Okay. So now I'm back and I've got headphones. Thanks for joining me. The headphones are a little tangled. So I hope you thought that was useful. And I'll explain why I think it's useful. People have mirror neurons, and mirror neurons help us or influence us to adopt behaviors that we repeatedly see modeled in front of us. Like a mirror. We do what we see in the mirror sometimes, and that's an element of human nature that fascists know how to take advantage of, because fascism is a political system based on emotional manipulation, and when you harness the power of repetition and you repeatedly lie to each other, when you harness the power of being extremely unprincipled and unmoored from social norms and from values such as decency and honesty, then yes, it does give you that superpower of shamelessness. And fascists rise when more and more people get swept up in that shamelessness. And the antidote to it is honesty, decency, and building a coalition amongst people who still have enough of those values left in common. Concern about others, concerns about people who are teachers, contending with that increased degree of anxiety and insecurity, knowing that you're going to a classroom in Texas or another state in America with lax gun laws, with guns that are less regulated than car licenses, and 18-year-olds can legally purchase weapons of mass death, then that's not acceptable anymore for decent people. So you've got to harness that power of decency and communal solidarity, not communism. When I use a word like solidarity, I feel the need to highlight that I'm opposed to communism, which in itself is a system that lends itself to executive consolidation of power at an authoritarian, despotic level. Communism's often associated with mass death, millions perishing or being sent to re-education camps. So, of course, happy to try and neutralize that false criticism often leveled at Democrats that they are communists and baby eaters. And as a person of Jewish background, I'm very familiar with the potency of lying to people about groups being baby eaters, because that was a false charge often leveled at Jewish people to take advantage of the visibility of Jewish communities and the tribalistic tendency of some people to channel their anxieties into hostility to outgroups. I hope that makes sense. I think it does. All right. Next video. Let's see if we can find Beto O'Rourke responding to a chap yesterday at Mineral Wells Town Hall. Oh, that's not the video, but look, that's everybody being very excited. Wow, that whole video is an hour long. He's trending, so I should be able to find this video. Oh, I have 5 million views. That's a high degree of engagement. That's a lot of people feeling that Beto's delivering something authentic and something needed. It's not just the controversy of he swore. That level of engagement is a function of the pressing need people feel in recognizing that there's minoritarians holding a lot of power in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court justices put onto the bench by Republican presidents who lost the popular vote. In fact, a majority of Americans now are thinking that it's okay to dispose of the Electoral College system. The Electoral College system, a system of voting that runs parallel to the popular vote and subverts the outcome of the popular vote in a way that Americans were often told protects the little guys against the big guys, protects the little states. But states aren't little. They're still filled with voters. And if you have a state with less voters, it doesn't mean that your votes, if you live in a smaller state, should be given additional political influence that belies your actual numbers. That democracy is about giving the majority power to avoid or to mitigate the tendency of a ruling class to emerge and propagate their own influence, to create a positive feedback loop of expanding their influence by using their money to buy influence and expand their ability to impose on the majority. So a white theocratic libertarian coalition is currently wielding a lot of power. They're wielding a lot of power to impose gun laws, overly lax gun laws on the rest of America, so that gun proliferation is exposing children in school to danger, is resulting in the deaths of thousands of Americans each month, unnecessarily so. because that particular element of lax gun culture makes people in a heightened emotional state, or people with enhanced hostility towards their fellow Americans, to respond with deadly or life-destroying violence to relatively minor upsets. For example, a police officer who killed an 18-year-old in the last month, who was shooting water beads from an Orbeez gun out of a car window. So the police officer was struck with a water bead and responded by, and the police officer was a off-duty police officer in plain clothes, but he happened to have a Glock on him, so he turned and shot the teenager, hit him in the jaw, and the teenager died, and the police officer continued to his girlfriend's house, had a shower, and went to work the next day. That was in New York City, and I might bring up the article, but I'll just play Beto first.
I'm going to make sure that now 11 weeks since we lost 19 kids and their 2 teachers shot to death with a weapon originally designed for use in combat, legally purchased by an 18-year-old who did not try to obtain one when he was 16 or 17, but followed the law that's on the books, ladies and gentlemen, that says that you can buy not one, you can buy 2 or more if you want to, AR-15s, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and take that weapon that was originally designed for use on the battlefields in Vietnam to penetrate an enemy soldier's helmet at 500 feet and knock him down dead, up against kids at 5 feet. It may be funny to you, motherfucker, but it's not funny to me, okay? I'm going to make sure that now 11 weeks since we lost 19.
All right. Dun, dun. That was a good example of Beto O'Rourke calling out someone who's prepared to, who's so sociopathically detached from the tragedy of the death of children and their teachers in a classroom, that he could laugh at Beto O'Rourke's description of the deadliness of these weapons that were used on children within 5 feet. The next thing I'm quickly going to share is just this article about the teenager who used an Orbeez play gun to shoot a stranger. Oops, that's not the right article. Try again. Now, apologies to anybody on Twitter, because I believe Twitter listeners can't comment in a way that I can see. Orbeez challenge may have led to fatal shooting of New York City teen. We know it did, but sometimes people have to. That is not right. Okay. Published on July the 26th. So this happened in July. It was a trending TikTok challenge called the Orbeez challenge. A New York teenager with an Orbeez gun was shot and killed by a off-duty corrections officer from Rikers Island. And he's not just an off-duty police officer, he's a police officer or a corrections officer in charge of training other officers. What was his name? Dion Middleton, 45, an off-duty corrections officer. Shot Chalusant and has been charged with murder. Good that he's been charged. Orbeez guns are essentially amped up water guns, but can be taken as a firearm if you take a quick look. Kind of looks pretty not gun colored, the oranginess of it and the beigeness of it. If you can see that, let's see how big that looks. Yes. Okay, so that doesn't look really that much like a gun, but people can respond in a way that shows they feel they cannot ever be disrespected, and that their weapons are not to protect themselves. Their weapons are to protect themselves from being disrespected. They're not to physically protect themselves. They're to emotionally protect their ego. Many TikTok videos show teens firing the water beads from literally everywhere. So I think the police in New York have taken steps to highlight that these type of guns are, in fact, similar to an air rifle, and so should be outlawed under the statute that outlaws air rifles. But in any case, that teen is dead, and he shouldn't be dead for participating in a TikTok challenge with regards to a souped up water gun that shoots water beads. And until a critical mass of people, and I'm looking at you, white people, push back against the false Republican reputation for being responsible and pro-America, then we will continue to have these anti-American, societally corrosive status quo situations where guns are overly proliferated in society, and people armed with guns feel overly feel that they can legitimately respond with gunfire to a personal slight. So that's all from me today. Best of Twitter. Thanks for joining me. See you again, and I hope to see you again another time. Cheers. Bye-bye.